and welcome back to the She Shoots podcast, Women Empowering Women in the Shooting Community, Episode 3, International Women's Day, Get Your Head in the Game. My name is Regina Ruiz Ordóñez. I'm from the Canadian University Shooting Federation, and our other hosts for today's episode are Deneen Tomlin and Casey Gavinchuk from Lady Guns, and Kelly Melanson from Maple Seed Project, Slamfire Radio, and CCFR Women's Program. As always, I'd like to thank our amazing sponsors, Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fun, Savage Arms, Beretta, Vortex, and Hunt Fuel Company. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave them in the chat box below. Doing so will automatically enter you into our giveaway for today's episode. Today, in honor of International Women's Day, we will be giving out 3 different prizes: a Beretta's gift pack, a Cusive swag pack, and a Cabela's gift card. Now, I'd love to hand it over to Deneen and Kelly to introduce our guests for today.
Thank you very much, Regina, and happy International Women's Day to my fellow co-hosts on the show this evening and to all the ladies that are watching tonight. We're really excited to have these guests on this evening, and I am hoping to learn a whole bunch of amazing things. And so I have the honor of leading off with the introductions of Linda Miller and Keith Cunningham of MilCun Training Centre. And then Kelly, you're going to take us into the great Q&A session. So let's get started. First off, welcome Linda and Keith. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let's learn a little bit about you guys. And I've got some stuff to read, so pardon me while I go down this. So first and foremost, Captain Retired Keith Cunningham. He's the Chief Operations Officer and Chief Instructor and Head Gunsmith at MilCun Training Centre. Keith is a career military officer with a combined time of over 25 years experience with Canadian Forces and the U.S. Army. Keith has taught marksmanship courses with the Canadian Forces and at several police forces in Ontario. He was a certified instructor examiner for the firearm safety education and was a hunter safety instructor examiner. Keith is an internationally certified shooting coach and has successfully coached teams to national and international excellence. Keith is a qualified gunsmith with over 30 years experience specializing in long-range practical rifles. He has built and regulated rifles used by international competitors around the world. He's an internationally renowned rifle and pistol competitor, having won honors at Bisley, the World Long Range Championships, and the Commonwealth Games. He has been the National Service Rifle Champion many times, the National Pistol Champion, and the National Sniper Precision Champion, and the National 3-Gun Champion. Holy cow, that's amazing. He is a member of the Canadian Forces Sports Hall of Fame and the Dominion of Canada Hall of Fame in the target rifle and service rifle categories, as well as the builder category. Amazing, amazing. Yeah. All right. And to introduce our second speaker coming along with Keith tonight is Linda Miller, Chief Executive Officer and Coaching Specialist with MilCun Training Centre. So Linda has over 25 years of business experience, including consulting, business planning, management, marketing, and information systems. She has considerable experience in international small bore target shooting as a member of Canada's shooting team, has won medals in the Commonwealth Games, Cuba World Cup, and Mexico World Cup. Linda was the first woman of only 2 women to win the Ontario Lieutenant Governor's Medal for shooting. In 2002, Linda competed in F class and was the top female provincially, nationally, and at the World Championships. Linda is the 2008 National Sniper Marksmanship Champion and has won the Sniper Pairs Championship with Keith many times. As much as she loves shooting, Linda's pride is her ability to help others to marksmanship excellence. She is an accomplished and internationally certified coach. She has volunteered as a director, manager, administrator, and consultant in local, provincial, and national shooting sports organizations. I'm a little bit tongue-tied tonight. All right, so Keith and Linda hold many provincial and national titles and records and have been members of several Canadian teams in international championships throughout the world. In 2007, 8, and 9, they coached the Canadian Forces Combat Shooting Team to many honors at Bisley, England. They have coached 13 members of the military to a Queen's Medal, the top award for marksmanship within the Canadian Forces. They are popular guest lecturers and speakers, providing seminars and courses to police, military, and civilian marksmen here in Canada and internationally. Their articles on marksmanship have been published in shooting magazines such as Precision Shooting, Tactical Shooter, The Accurate Rifle, Ontario Out of Doors, the American Sniper Association newsletter, the Canadian Marksman, the Canadian Forces Infantry Journal, and AIM magazine. They are also authors of several popular books, including The Win Book for Rifle Shooters and The Power of Mental Marksmanship, which was released in January 2010 and the topic of our podcast this evening. So I apologize for tripping over my tongue so many times. Welcome to the show, Keith and Linda. We are very excited to have you.
Yeah.
And I am now going to pass it over to Kelly so I can get myself back in order. Thanks, Kel.
Well, thank you for doing such a great introduction. I am super excited, but I think everybody is super excited to have both you, Keith, and Linda on the show tonight. And the reason is because, well, tonight's all about it's International Women's Day, but also we're going to be talking about marksmanship and getting your mind into the mental game as well. And I feel like we're doing a slow and gradual progression to getting more women into shooting, and this is a huge piece. I think the mental piece is a huge piece with getting more and more women into shooting. So I was so happy when you both said that you would be open to coming on tonight, and so welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much.
So
I was pretty impressed with those people you were introducing a little while ago there, Janina. Holy crap.
that's a lot of information, wasn't it?
Kelly was testing me to make sure that I knew how to read. That's right.
Yeah, it's true.
I thought you did exceptionally well. So,
well, thank you.
If you need a reference letter to Kelly, we'll do that.
And of course, we always enjoy
Did
the
you notice,
opportunity to talk about the mental side of the game, because
Yeah.
it did so much for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely did.
Well,
The first time I went shooting, what actually attracted me to the sport was the total absorption that you have when you're shooting a sequence. You get nothing else matters in the whole world except what you're doing right now.
Mhm.
And that's a wonderful state of mind. So that's what really attracted me to the sport. And the thing that kind of suckered me in and kept me in it was that it's the one thing that I had encountered in life where what you are thinking right now is directly displayed within microseconds on the piece of paper you're shooting at. And there's no intermediary, there's nobody judging it. It's not a beauty contest. It's a fact-based, here we are. This is what we just did. And I love that. So between those two things, it was hard to keep me out of the shooting range.
You were hooked.
Yeah, absolutely hooked.
Yeah. So, we got your CV. Deneen did a great job of giving us that. But what got you into shooting? What precipitated that? Linda, why did you go shooting? And Keith, why did you go shooting?
I went shooting because somebody said to me, I do this every week. It was and you'd really like it, so I think you should come and try it. And my dad taught me to shoot. He taught me how to fill out an income tax form, and he did all what he thought was the right things to teach his daughter.
Mm.
But I didn't know that shooting was a sport until I was in my 30s, and my friend said, "You're going to like this. It's going to draw you away from everything else, and you're going to like it." And he was absolutely right. It was just perfect. Just a wonderful way to spend some time that if you focus correctly, gives you new energy for life.
Yeah, it does. So what about you, Keith? Is it because you were in the military that you got introduced to shooting, or did you shoot before that?
Actually, I grew up on a farm on the Bruce Peninsula, and I started off shooting BB guns and pellet guns and 22s, and I was always carrying 22 around with me, shooting groundhogs and any other pests that would be around the farm. And then one night, and I forget exactly what year it was, but I was watching television, and in the news, they were talking about sharing this champion shooter off the range, he was dressed in the typical dress of the shooter of that time, with a felt hat and his shooting coat, and he had a rifle in his arms, and they had him up on a sedan type chair, and they were actually carrying him off the range, and everybody was cheering and happy for him. And I thought, oh, I want to do that. I want to be a shot that's good enough to do that sort of thing. And so that was kind of my first go at it. And of course, I received no instructions. Even after I got in the Army, the instructions were not, they're trying to train hundreds and hundreds of soldiers. Yep. And so the instructions weren't too detailed. But I turned out to be a half decent shot in the Army. When I went to Vietnam, I got into the sniper school over there and did some sniping, and then when I got into the Canadian Army, they had a rifle team. Excuse me, and I thought, well, geez, that'd be kind of a fun thing to do. And as it turns out, if you really wanted to become a really good shot, you had to get on the rifle teams, and because that's where they really focused on marksmanship. And so we just carried on from there. And I tried to become a better shot, got involved in the national teams, and tried to figure out how to win some of these matches. And it wasn't until I got involved with this mental marksmanship that I actually started to win matches. And I wish that I got started on that way back when I was shooting groundhogs with 22s.
Now
that's kind of where I went.
Okay, but you were eventually carried off. You achieved your goal. You were able to be carried off the field.
Yes, in fact, several times.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 times for the service rifle championship, and 4 or 5 times for the lieutenant governors.
Good for you. Where is MilCun? For those that are listening that aren't here in Ontario.
We're in central Ontario. We're about 2 hours or so north of Toronto, between 2 little hamlets, one called Kinmount and the other called Minden.
It's a beautiful area. It's up in the Muskokas.
It's actually in the Kawarthas.
Kawarthas, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more rugged than the Muskokas, but yeah, an absolutely beautiful area. Lots of rocks and lakes and trees, a lot of trees.
It's about an hour west of Bancroft and an hour east of Orillia.
Yes. Beautiful location. So let's get into it. Let's get into mental marksmanship. So there was a quote that I heard. It says, train your mind and the rest will follow. So what exactly does that mean? What is mental marksmanship?
That's Keith's saying, so I'll leave that one to him. It's a great saying.
Mental marksmanship is pretty basically thinking the right thought at the right time. As it turns out, about 90% of your performance is going to depend on the way you think. If you are at the time thinking about, the crack in your windshield, the flat tire, the note at the bank that's a month overdue, if you're kind of thinking these thoughts when you're trying to fire a good shot, then it's not going to work for you. And so you have to have that mental program to keep you thinking straight. You only have to think straight for about 10 seconds or even less. So it doesn't take a whole lot of focus. You can think whatever you want to in between, but when it comes time, when the butt is in the shoulder and you're starting to see a sight picture, you need to be thinking the right thoughts at that given time. And that's pretty much how it sums it up. Now, those thoughts that we're talking about, that's where it gets a bit more detailed and a little more complex.
Well, Linda, why don't you tell us how mental marksmanship or that mental piece is going to be helpful for the new shooters? Because that's mainly who we're trying to focus on right now.
For a new shooter, I think that the wonderful news is that it doesn't cost more to think right than it costs to think wrong. So a lot of the times for new shooters, cost is a very big deal. Buying a good quality rifle, feeding it with good quality ammo, making sure that the technical aspects that you have aren't the things that are holding you back. All of those things cost money, but you control what's in your mind. And if you have an allergic reaction to the idea that you are in control of how you think and therefore how you feel, then you're going to have trouble with the shooting sports. You need to agree that not only can you control your mind, it's a good thing to be able to do it. And for new shooters, I think that's the biggest hurdle. It's like, I used to picture those stray thoughts were like puppies. They're not bad, they're not wrong, they're just not real well disciplined yet. So they're cute little puppies, and what you need to do is put them all in a little basket and set the basket aside until you're finished shooting, so that all of those distractions, you can let go of them. You have a place for them. Some people use a filing drawer. They write their little concerns and issues in their minds on a little piece of paper and put it into the file, and then they can leave it there and come back later to those distractions. Clearing your mind is a really significant part, because you need to be able to focus on just exactly the right things. And if you have distractions, of course, that gets very hard. But as I said at the beginning, it's all for free. It doesn't cost you anything to organize your thoughts and think well for shooting. And I think that's the greatest good news for new shooters.
The biggest problem that coaches do with new shooters is they get them focused on the score. Oh, you didn't do very well tonight. Look at this score. When in fact, they should be focusing on performance, because you've got to get it right at your end before the rifle can get it right at the other end. It doesn't go the other way. If you watch a coach and he's got his face in a spotting scope and all he's doing is looking at where the bullets are landing down there, then he's not coaching his shooter. He's not focusing on the end of the range that in the end has all the control over where that shot goes. And that's your shooter. When you're starting to train new shooters, you should be completely and focused on performance, on them getting it right at their end. The score will come later, but it won't come if you can't get it right at your end. So you got to focus on getting it right at the shooter end. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So when does the mind become more important than training, or does it?
Because go ahead. The mind is it. It's always most important. The whole point of getting your gun and your ammo and everything else correct is simply so that it's not the weakest link. Because you really have to, you really don't want to be limited by what your gun can do. And that's another thing that new shooters will find. As soon as they start using their mind, then they'll be able to identify areas of their equipment that's not working quite so well.
Right. You need to have the fundamentals underneath your belt and everything set up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely. You need to know how the position's supposed to work, and you know how the slings are supposed to work, and the best position. You need to know the marksmanship principles, get them working for you. But eventually, and so if you've got a whole field full of shooters and they're all shooting very, very well, what's the one major thing that will then separate them? And of course, that's exactly how you're thinking on that given day.
Right. And you actually said that when we first started the show tonight. You said what took you to the next level was this whole mental marksmanship. You were a good shooter previously, but this is what actually separated you from the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about mental marksmanship, you have this in your book. You have this diagram, and it's a great diagram, by the way. And can you explain the diagram, how it's divided into the different sections? It's like a Venn diagram, basically.
It's the conscious, subconscious, and self-image.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we're talking about there is that there are a bunch of things that you can train mentally about your conscious. That's do you have your equipment with you? Did you bring the right stuff? Did you follow your list that made sure you had your ammo and your ear defenders and all of that good stuff that you need to have at the range? Are you aware of the facts of what you need to do to shoot safely and properly? And are you aware of all of the things that you need to know in order to accomplish it? Then there's the subconscious, and that's a little bit harder to train. It's a little bit trickier. But there are ways that you do it. And the main thing that you do is your self-talk. You know that? Yes, Keith's giving me support here. It's what you and I need it tonight, honest to goodness. it's what you're imprinting on the brain as you train. And the way you do it is through self-talk and perfect practice. I was getting there, honestly.
I know you were.
Repetition, but perfect repetition, right?
A key thing for young people is the self-talk, because they and that speaks to the self-image. A lot of young people haven't trained that yet, haven't identified it as a trainable unit, and it's a difficult thing to train well in our very negative world. But as Keith mentioned earlier, one of the things that helps you isolate what you're doing well and correctly and want to continue doing is focusing on performance. So you don't use judgmental words. You only focus on what is being accomplished right now. If a shot isn't in the group that you wanted, then identify how to make it so next time. If it's something that's out of your control, identify that and let it go. All of those things will bundle up into helping you understand how to feel successful, even when things don't go in a champion way.
Yep.
You know, what was that phrase we heard the other day, Keith? Either you win or you learn.
I actually like that.
I like
That's a
that.
good one. I don't
Yeah.
Yeah. I stole it. I'm sure I stole it.
Yeah, we're stealing it.
We're stealing it too. So we talked about
young people, and I'm assuming that most of the people you get starting out are in fact younger than 30, say.
Okay.
That's one area that they struggle with is the self-image. Because it's developing and growing, and you know it's as awkward as we might have felt when we first started having our feet bigger than our shoe size and our legs longer than they were yesterday, and all of those kinds of growths. We were kind of bumbling around a bit with them as we got used to them. Well, the same thing happens with the brain and developing this self-image. You bumble around a bit until you start figuring out how to work with what you've got now. And that's part of the process that a sport like shooting can genuinely help a young person develop through.
One of the problems that we Canadians have with our self-image is that if we start to think that we're a pretty good shot, we start thinking that's bragging, and none of us want to brag. And of course, you just want to call the facts the facts. If in fact you're a half decent shot, then you're a half decent shot, and you need to admit it, recognize it, and learn the reasons why, and start focusing on those and developing them more. These three circles that we just talked about, of course, they all have to be balanced correctly, and all the same size and all working before you get into that ideal performance zone. And that's, of course, you eventually want to be able to call up on that and go into that zone when you need to, and it needs to come easily for you.
Yeah. So you're talking about balance between the conscious, subconscious, and the self-image, and in the middle of it, where it's a Venn diagram, and where it meets, that's your zone. So through preparation, training, self-talk, as well as a positive self-image, you're going to be able to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, the way,
go ahead.
You know, we teach this to a lot of people out there, and so they all know it. And the way that you can beat somebody that has nicely balanced circles is to make your circles bigger. So you try harder, you focus more, you focus on your training and make sure it's correct, positive training. You develop your self-image into recognizing that you are a good shot, because there's the stats, there's your last performance is right there on the scoreboard, and you were right up there. And of course, you got to make sure that the conscious mind keeps up, so that you arrive on the right spot at the right time with all the equipment that you need. And we have all kinds of techniques that we use and train to make these circles larger.
Okay. I like that. Let's talk a little bit about self-image still. I want to talk about it because sometimes it influences our teachable attitude, and it's important to have a teachable attitude as well. So do you think that self-image sometimes negatively affects our performance, and then even with respect to a teachable attitude as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I think you've probably all met the person that can't bear to be successful, whether it's in shooting or something else. They'll sabotage themselves. in terms of how they're thinking about themselves, or they'll do things with, just like showing up at the shooting range without any ammo. Well, that's sabotage, and you've done it to yourself. So stop that. It's
Yeah, there's a solution to that problem, and
Yeah.
it's an easy one. It's called a list.
yeah. And some people are so afraid of failure that they won't try anything new. And we have, that's one of the hardest ones to coach, of course, because if what they're doing now is not working well, they need to do something different. And so you've got to give them enough comfort that they can let go and carry on to try something new that will work well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the self-talk is something that we sort of work on, and you'll have these little comments. Oh, I'll never be able to do that. I'm not good enough to do that. Well, we need to get those images turned around so that that the way is now clear for them to be able to move forward. Yeah, you got to get rid of that right off.
Yeah.
You're not progressing at all unless you can start turning the negative self-talk around to something that will grow.
So the phrase that I came up with to help people with that is, have you got a better way of saying that? Okay, so if somebody says something negative, that's fine. That people need to sometimes. But have you got a way of saying that will now move you forward off that spot?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you so married to that spot that there isn't anything I can say that's going to move you from it? Except maybe a slap upside the head.
Yeah. I'll be honest, when taking your course, I heard that a couple of times.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's good.
It's true. One of the things that, so specifically for women, we see a lot of times that there is a little bit of sometimes trepidation. And so just even flipping that self-talk from, oh, I don't know if I can do this, to I can do this, it changes everything obviously dramatically as well. So that self-image is there, and also it lends to a teachable attitude is what I've seen.
It's so important. Not clearly it's important for shooting success, but for success in life.
Yeah.
Having a can-do attitude, figure out whether or not this is something that you can do, and if you can't, figure out how you might. If it's too big a bite, then figure out how to break it up. If it's something you don't know, then figure out how to go find out about it. If you need help, figure out who to go to get that help.
Yeah.
Just can do all the way along. Of course I can do this. I mean, if you need a little bit of a boost, go watch some of the Paralympians in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
There's some can-do attitude for you.
Did you see today that there was a Canadian that won the biathlon?
Oh, I did not. That's outstanding.
Outstanding.
So gold medal. Yeah, just to let you know.
That is awesome.
Isn't it? It's great. So let's talk about the difference between training versus practice. And what should we do? Should we focus on the performance aspect? I think you did talk a little bit about this there, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, training is learning how to do it in the first place.
Okay.
And practice is getting good at it. I think that's kind of the differences all boiled down into a couple of sentences.
Okay.
A lot of people figure if they take a training course that they're now, anointed experts on this field. And you see that on Facebook every day. Suddenly everybody's a military expert this week, right?
Yes.
So if you take a course, that means you should have just found out how much you need to learn. That's what taking a course is for.
Mm-hmm. Taking the course is to learn what you need to learn, exactly that, but then you have to take it home and put it into practice, or you'll never get good at it. All you'll have done is you'll take in a course and put it.
And practice is very critical, because it has to be the right practice.
Mm-hmm.
If you're practicing something wrong, you'll just get good at doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect practice. You have to do that. Why don't we talk a little bit about the ammo equipment versus the training? So I see a lot of people go out there and they don't know what to buy. So they go to the shop or they'll ask their friends that have been shooting for 25 years, what equipment do I need, ammo and all that. And they get the best and they don't have the training. So which should they be doing? Should they go and get the training first and then get the equipment and ammo, or should they get the equipment, ammo, and then take the training? And then
what I did? when I was starting, I borrowed equipment as much as I could. I started in a lower class level than where I ended up, so that the equipment wasn't so expensive, because lower class levels simply mean that you can't use all the fancy equipment. It's not allowed by the rules.
Right.
So you start at a level appropriate to your budget, and the minute you can move on from that, you move on from it. But you can develop your mind right from the beginning.
That's true.
What you need to learn, though, and here's where somebody with more experience can really help a lot, is have somebody who really knows how to shoot your equipment, whatever it is, so that you understand what its capability is. Then you're working within that arena. So you don't expect to shoot bench rest scores with a sporting rifle. Sporting rifles can't do that. And you don't expect to shoot the kinds of scores you need for Olympic pistol when you're using a sport pistol.
That's correct.
So you need to understand what your arena is, so that you know what excellence is within that. And then it's all about how your brain works within it.
We try to have loaner equipment here, enough loaner equipment that people can, if they don't have it, they can come here and have a look at what we provide them, and make decisions after that point. We've had people that went the other way, where they went into the store and bought equipment. They would show up here for a 5-day course where you're going to shoot a couple of 100 rounds a day with a .338 Lapua, because that's what the store guy said he needed. We had an elderly fellow here, like, he was frail. He walked around on the range like a frail individual. And we started shooting 22, and he was having a great time with 22. And then we went to their major caliber hunting rifle. Well, after a couple of shots, he got up and come back to us and said, "Look, I'm sorry, I got to go home. I'm hurting. I can't shoot anymore." And I said, "Well, what are you shooting?" And he says, "Well, it's this rifle here." And it was a featherweight 300 Win Mag. Which was far more rifle than he needed to go deer hunting, and far, far more rifle than any of us can handle the recoil of. And if he just came and bought one of our rifles to begin with, we could have got them all sorted out, and he wouldn't have. I don't know if he ever got back into the game or not, because he was genuinely hurting.
Yeah. I think that you made a great recommendation there. So borrow rifles, or borrow the equipment that you can. That way you get to try things out. But not only that, have somebody else shoot your rifle if there's problems, if you're experiencing problems, because sometimes it's not the shooter. Sometimes it is the equipment. I see that.
Yep.
I see that on the firing line quite a bit as well.
In fact, we teach there's 4 things. If you're not getting the downrange results that you want, there's 4 things that are the problem. And you just got to go and solve these 4. Number 1, the rifle. Is there something wrong with the rifle? Number 2, is it the ammunition? Not all ammo shoots well in that same rifle. Number 3, is it the optic? Is it the sights? Are they not staying zeroed? And we've had tons of them come through here that wouldn't stay zeroed. And of course, number 4 is you. And the best way to decide whether it's you or not is to simply get somebody that is known to be a good shot and have them shoot your rifle. If they're getting tiny little groups, well, now we know where the problem is. And if they're getting big groups like you, well, now we know that we need to look someplace else. Yeah.
And that's it. You can accurately assess that just going through your equipment, or if you don't know how to do it, have somebody else do it with you, somebody who is experienced, and we can quickly assess it. And then it'll actually change your attitude for the day as well.
Big time.
Yeah. See that every time that I'm on the line as well. I'm going to turn this over to, it's a perfect break. So I'm going to turn this over to Nadine, because I know that she's going to start talking to you about, instead of just shooting, we're going to incorporate some other things where we can take mental marksmanship or that mental piece and add it to our everyday life.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kelly. I've been writing notes down as you guys have been talking, and I've learned a bunch of stuff. And before we leave the firearm itself, I know that in our community, and especially listening tonight, we have people, ladies that are competitive pistol shooters and shotgunners. So does this mental marksmanship course that you teach, and mental marksmanship in general, can we apply all of this no matter which firing line we're standing on and which platform we're using?
Absolutely. It's the common denominator, not only between guns and types of fire, types of shooting, different games, different distances. It's also the common denominator for any kind of application for firearms. So in our book, we cover the competitor is a quarter of the book, the hunter is another quarter, the police officer is a third, and the final quarter is the military man. All of those types of shooting are very different on the surface, and some require different technical skills, but mentally all the same.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you very much. So, and you touched on hunting, so that was the other thing I was going to ask. All right, so let's get into, now that we've talked about that, let's get into the flip side of everything being awesome. Let's talk about if I had a bad day. So I'm out on the firing line, I'm training, or I'm at a competition and things aren't going well. What do I need to know? How do I bring this mental marksmanship into my game, into my training when I'm just not having a good day?
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. If you're saying you're not having a good day, you're probably not headed down the right path for your thought process. What you need to be thinking is, what is happening now factually, and what do I need to do to change it? Okay, so if you're not having a good day, most people, that means my scores aren't good. Okay, so stop thinking about scores. Start thinking about what it is, the performance elements that you need to produce shots that go where you expect them to go and want them to go. So if you need to think more clearly about each individual shot, you want to think about, oh, have I been using my mental program? In fact, Keith is laughing here because one of the very first times I ever coached him was at a provincial championships. And he wasn't, I think he actually brought me along to be his dolly, if you know what I mean. And he knew that I was a coach in small bore, but what did I know about full bore? And the answer is not very much, but at the time, but I knew the brain. I understood how he should be thinking. And so as we were walking back up the range from a pretty much a disastrous shoot that he had all kinds of things not going well, and so we were chatting, and eventually, I'm not sure what I said, but eventually he realized that he had not been using his mental program, and that was the root cause of everything that had not gone well. And so the next match he started using his mental program, and golly gee, talk about it, Keith. You're giving me the hand gestures here.
Yeah, I went right to the top with it. And of course, this is what we're suggesting to you. If you're having problems out there, then you need to think your mental program and make sure you're getting onto that, because that mental program has saved me several times. It has resulted in me taking what is a not so fun match and turned it into one where I won. And that's what happened on that particular one. Then the very next match was a perfect score, and I ended up winning a lieutenant governor's based on what Linda said right at the start, and that was get under your mental program. You're not thinking the right thoughts. You need to be thinking the right thoughts at the right time, and the mental program does that for you. And what a difference that made. I've been distracted incredibly in matches, and you only have to run that mental program. It takes about 10 seconds, and that turns the match around.
The other intervention that sometimes, especially new competitors need, is that they're just whacked out with nervousness, and that has everything to do with, of course, thinking the wrong thoughts, because you're thinking about outcomes. That's what makes you nervous. If you thought about your performance, the nerves would fly away. But you need an intervention, and what do you do? So for that, we advocate very strongly that you learn a simple breathing technique. Dave Grossman calls it combat breathing. I learned it as 4-square breathing, and it's the counted breathing that you breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and hold for a count of 4. And you do that until you calm down. You don't just do it once, and you don't do it, it must be 5 times. No, you do it until you calm down. And that's a terrific intervention for 2 reasons. One is that it actually works, and it's very easy to learn and apply, and you can do it in almost any situation. But the other is that it gives you the feeling of self-control back. And it's such a simple mechanism. And the minute you have the self-control feeling back, then you can conquer the world.
One of the problems that we have, and one of the reasons why we're not shooting so well today, is we're anxious. We get anxious about something And as soon as we start getting anxious, we start breathing very shallow, little wee tiny breaths. And of course, that's not getting the oxygen into the system, into the brain, into the muscles. It's just not working for you. And so the opposite is what you need to do. And that's where this 4 square breathing comes in. And those big deep breaths that you take, you're actually sucking that air in, getting it right down to the bottom of your lungs, and you're holding it there, giving the oxygen a chance. It changes over. It changes the mind around, get everything breathing properly.
I love that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was destined. My very first time I won the service rifle, the National Service Rifle Championship. I was leading going into stage 2 by 25 points, but you can lose 25 points very quick. We had 4 of the hardest matches ahead of us. And when I looked down range, the sight reticle was bouncing all over the place. And I remember thinking to myself, so this is how it ends. Here I am right on the verge of winning here, and I'm about to lose it all. And I remember Linda, of course, couldn't be on the line coaching me, but I remember her words. You got a better way to say that? And oh yeah, what about this combat breathing? And so I started doing that breathing during our prep time. And the next time I looked down there was a sight picture I could work with. And I ended up winning my first service rifle championship by 26 points. And all because of that combat breathing and then focusing on performance. Just get it right at your end, let the gun take care of it at the other. So one of the things you talked about, what should a newbie do if they're having a bad day, and what should they do? Well, one of the things you can do is just step back a bit. And what that means is if you think you're not firing the good shots, then stop firing live shots and go back to dry firing until you see that it's working again. Or you take a break and then focus on what the good shots, when you were shooting good shots, what did they look and feel like, and start to approach it from that level again, just slowly making sure everything is right before you move on to the next level, and then the next level, and the next level, and then take it on to a higher level once you get there.
Yeah, we certainly don't need to waste lead while we're trying to figure out where the problems are. Oh, that's for sure.
That's right.
Well, the first time I made the national team for 22 rifle, in the standing position, of course, if you have any nerves at all, that's where it shows up, because your hold is fairly big anyway. And I was having nerves like crazy because I knew that I was doing well, and I knew who I had to beat, and I knew too much. So I was drawing myself back in, but the only thing that I could do to make it work for me on that occasion was to dry fire every other shot. So here I am in a national team trials. It's actually a national championship, and I'm dry firing every other shot in the standing position. It's grueling. That's a lot of work. I'm supposed to shoot 40 and I have to shoot 80, but it was worth it. Every trigger squeeze that I dry fired gave me a reminder of what the live shot was supposed to look and feel like. And that's what I needed.
Thank you so much. You've given us a lot to think about as far as what we can do when things aren't going well, and I appreciate the breathing. So I want to transition to other areas that this is transferable. So, for example, you just talked about, Linda, how grueling that position is. So fitness, how important is fitness in mental marksmanship, and things like yoga and journaling and meditation, which so many of us do nowadays. How does that play into the game?
We like all of the techniques that have to do with being able to relax and or focus the mind. So they're all good things to do, but you do need to have a certain amount of control of the body in order to be able to have the luxury of controlling your mind. You need to have a level of fitness, of general strength, so that when you're in a position, you are using about 10% muscle activation is the ideal. So if you find that it's too hard to hold your gun up, then you need to eat your Wheaties and do some weightlifting. You need good aerobic conditioning, because the brain is really demanding when it comes to oxygen. So you need to be able to feed the brain while you're actually shooting, and for that you need good aerobics. And you need in some disciplines, you need flexibility in order to do the discipline. Some of them actually, flexibility is not a good thing. It makes it harder to do them, but it is so important for injury prevention. If you haven't done your stretches, and yoga is an outstanding way to do your stretches, much more entertaining than just, any kind of free-form stretching. And it will help you, it will keep you from hurting tendons and ligaments if your muscles can stretch properly. It's also a great relaxation technique. And I found out inadvertently that it's a good way to psych the competition. I was in the waiting area of a World Cup one day, and I thought, I really need to do some yoga here because I'm just getting tied up in knots waiting. And so I cleared a little area and got shooting mat out and started doing a yoga routine. And as I'm doing it, one of the other girls who was, light years ahead of me in terms of competition experience, commented to her friend that it was absolutely outrageous that I was so relaxed I was able to do yoga right before a World Cup match.
You've just dropped like the key secret for tonight's podcast is we're all going to be taking up yoga and bringing the yoga mat to the range now just to psych out the competition. So I love that idea, Linda. I think that's great. And actually, oh, go ahead, Keith. Yeah.
There's a little more to it, and it depends a lot on the type of shooting that you're doing. When we were doing the military service rifle matches, they required a number of different positions, well, all 4 positions, in fact. And so every morning we would get up and go for a run. It was not a long, hard run. It was just a good, steady run just to keep the oxygen flowing. We would do a few chin-ups, sit-ups, and push-ups just to keep the upper body and the center core tuned. And then we would do, or at some time in there, we would do stretches that would help the particular positions that we had to shoot. In fact, I still do those. Every morning, the kneeling position has always been a problem with me, and so every morning I'm doing a bunch of leg stretches to make that kneeling position feel better, and you can lose it very, very quickly if you don't sort of keep at it. So a well-rounded type of fitness. It doesn't have to be hard. In fact, you don't want it hard. There's times when I was heavy into lifting weights and I couldn't shoot worth a darn the next day because I had this muscle jitter. Now, if I lifted weights every other day, then the day off I shot very well. But the day right after lifting fairly heavy weights, then I'd have that jitter in there and wouldn't shoot very well. So you need to really program it to what you're doing.
Right. Excellent. It sounds like we all have to take that away and figure out what works for the game that we want to play or the type of shooting that we're getting involved in, and really consider how both the mental and physical game comes into to the competitions or to the level of sport that we are participating in. So I just want to pivot a little bit because it is International Women's Day. I've got a couple of questions to pose to you guys about ladies in the shooting sports. So because you run this training center and you run programs and you've had the opportunity to interact with both women and men and youth, what do you think we can do as an industry to attract more women and youth into our shooting industry and to our gun ranges and to take these courses? Because women are so apprehensive and don't feel like it's safe or don't want to do it on their own. What would you suggest or recommend for us?
Yeah, exactly what Keith just whispered to me. Women's Days. Also, we've had it suggested to us that for youth, it's actually a good idea to have parent-child days. And it probably is. It's just a little bit difficult to orchestrate because you don't want the parent. The parent needs to be there as the person of majority to be able to have the child there at all. But you don't want the parent anywhere near the child while you're teaching the child. Mm-hmm. Women, of course, it's a whole lot easier because they come in all ages, and this is great. I ran Women's Days for 10 years. And my great pride of achievement of doing that was that I actually ended up with 24 very well qualified female coaches, because we had a coach on every firing point.
And I think that's so important for women to see women on the firing line and women instructors, because then they feel really confident they can achieve it as well.
The critical point of that whole Women's Day is that Linda had women teaching women how to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Us guys would set up the range, and then I'd grab onto them, and we'd go to another range, and we'd tell war stories or do some shooting on our own. And we'd have a time limit when we'd come back and set up the range for the next go around, and then we'd go away. And I think that is so critical. I've had guy instructors here that were teaching women, and every time she had a stoppage, he was right over there, and he'd take the gun right out of her hand and clear it for her and hand it back to her. And I had to grab onto him and say, look, you can talk to her all you want, but you don't touch her or her gun at all. You talk her through how she's supposed to do it, because you're not going to be there when that happens.
The other area where women instructors and coaches, especially coaches, is really, really handy, and we use it all the time here, is that we have a lot of alpha males in our customer groups. And if Keith goes and tells them to do something, then it's a man-on-man thing, right? But if I go and I said, then it's Mom is asking you to do this because Mom thinks this is important for you, right? So they're much more malleable for a female coach than they are for a male coach.
Yeah, the classic example of that was I went up to a police sniper and said, he's in the prone position, you need to move your hips over just a little more here, get more straight in line with the rifle. And he looked me dead in the eyes and said, I'm comfortable the way I am. Oh, yep, no problem. And I got Linda's attention, and I pointed down to this guy, and she knew exactly who it was or what the problem was. So a little while later, she comes over and says, well, just for me, do you mind just moving your hips over here to get them more in line? Yeah, sure. Is that far enough? Should I go a little further? So we understand how that works.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying Women's Days are really something, and bringing kids to the range. Totally agree. We're trying to do more of that as a collective group with wherever we have access to, and we've even got a comment in the chat that said, this lady says the Women's Day is what got her into the gun club, but they haven't had any since. And I know with the pandemic we had shutdowns of our ranges, and the ability to have those Women's Days wasn't on. But one of the things I really I want to emphasize it, and I want to ask, because you guys put on Women's Days, is when we put one on, the women get excited, the ladies come out, they sign up, they show up, and then there's not another one for another year. And I think that we really need to do something to keep the ladies engaged and keep them participating. Is there something that you did at your range other than one Women's Day a year to try and keep the ladies engaged?
Yeah. One of the things, because we're a remote area, we don't have a club nights the way other ranges do, but we do have, for our local folks, club nights for pistol in the summertime. And what happened, poor Keith started this because he wanted to go shooting and didn't want to, be the only one out there. So as it turned out, we ended up with, most times, with 5 or 6 women and Keith. Sociologically, you see, that works very well. I remember learning in school that until a visible minority gets to 30%, they feel like they're a minority, and at 30%, they start feeling comfortable in the group. So it's really important. It doesn't have to be an all women's practice day, but it's really important that they be the dominant identifiable group. And it's a club level thing that needs to happen. If you can support clubs to develop that kind of thing, then you'll have something. A ladies' night or a women's night. I'm not fond of the word ladies, but a women's night for pistol, every other week with a women's night for rifle, and that's at the club level. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Excellent.
We had two nights, in fact, and one was for juniors that were sort of under 18, and we had a few of them showing up, and we had several young girls, 15, 16, 17-year-old type, and I was thinking, boy, I'd love to train this team into a a kick-ass team that on our operational pistol championship that they would get a team of 4 going in there and just kick butt all over the place. But unfortunately, they got interested in boys and and homework kept getting in the way, and on that went. So I ended up with a team of grandmothers. So I went to the other end of the spectrum, and they've stuck with it. They come out every night, and they put their own team together, and they're not kicking ass like I'd like them to do just yet, but they're having a great time, and they're never last.
But Keith, they're not interested in boys and don't have homework, you see. So that's
yes, exactly.
That's why it's working.
Yeah, they're done with boys, all right.
That's right. That's right. So tonight we've referenced your books and your courses. So tell us a little bit. You've got a few books on the market and a new one, I believe, that's either coming out or just has come out. Can you tell us a little about that?
We're really happy to say that both the Wind book and the Mental Marksmanship books are available as ebooks now. They are both Kindle, so but that is what it is. But we're thrilled that they're ebooks. It was a long time getting it to that. Working with publishers is not necessarily the most fun part of my job. The other book that is coming out, and we're in the editorial process now, is co-authoring with Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who wrote On Killing and On Combat, and this one is on hunting. And as far as I can tell, it's hard for me to separate myself from it because I was the lead writer on it. But as far as I can tell, it's a really, really good book. The publisher is convinced that it's going to just outsell the other two by leaps and bounds. I had a friend read the manuscript over the last couple of weeks. It was my final edit that went to the publisher, and he said, "Wow, this is really going to outsell everything." So I'm looking forward to it because it takes hunting and talks about it in terms of what it means to be human and why hunting is part of that.
I am excited to read it. You've got me very intrigued. Thank you very much. I always tell people that are hunters that it's important for them to become marksmen first, because when they are stepping into the arena that is hunting and they are choosing to take a life, they need to be incredible marksmen to do it. And so I think sometimes there isn't a connection directly between good marksmen and good hunters. So I am looking forward to your book.
That's awesome and a great point, and we're 100% with you on that.
Wonderful.
Most of the articles that we write for Ontario Out of Doors are based in the direction of getting people to understand marksmanship and understand their role in ethical hunting.
Yeah, we say ethical shot many times. There's only one shot to make out there, and it's got to be the ethical one.
I couldn't agree more. So how about courses? Are you putting on courses now that the pandemic is lifting?
We actually never stopped. We were in a gun store today and talking to the folks about how we fared through the 2 years of crazy business. And what actually happened to us during the pandemic was that as soon as we were allowed to do civilian courses, we did as much as we could. We wore ourselves, and everybody who would work with us just wore us all out because we tried to have the same season compressed into 3 or 4 months instead of 6 or 7. Yeah. This year we're planning on a full normal season. We're just now putting together the calendar in all of its glorious detail. It takes quite a while because we have quite a few people interested in using our ranges, the police agencies and such, and we need to make space for them because they pay the bills really well. And but we're going to run a full calendar. It'll be up in probably a couple of weeks. Anybody who is really excited to get on a course, if you can give them our email, and they can get on my special list that sends out the calendar as soon as it's hot off the press.
Well, you know what, Linda and Keith, I think what we'll do is we'll have Casey, the technical whiz, make sure that we have the information for your books and your courses and your website for anybody that has enjoyed the podcast and watches all of our social media. So we'll be happy to share that for you.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
And Kelly had so many amazing things to say about the course. I'm going to have to pack my bags and come over from Alberta and take it myself.
Is that where you are?
I
Just
am.
a minute.
Yes.
Whereabouts in Alberta?
Calgary.
Okay, we could make that work.
Excellent.
There's hunting nearby, you know.
There's a couple of gun ranges and a couple of deer and a couple of moose and a couple of elk. Yeah, we've got a few things around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's do that. All right. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour. So we have one question left. A word of wisdom that you might leave for a woman in the shooting sports.
Yeah, forget you're a woman.
I love it.
Yeah, just think of it as a sport. It's something I'm interested in, something I can do, and it's gender neutral.
Yeah, it is. Get out there and do it.
Wonderful. Regina, you've got some prizes to give away. So I think it's time to thank Linda and Keith for all of the words of wisdom. Thank you very much. And I certainly learned a lot today. Kelly, how about you?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things, the biggest takeaways that I had from taking your courses is how positive you were. We tend to focus on the negative, whether it's our last shot that we just blew, but the way that you presented things, and I think, just following up with what Keith said, it's switching that brain and that thinking, and you can do it with everything in life, whether it's achieving, finishing school or whatever. It's that mental piece, flipping that. What did I do right? And how can I go through the process of achieving that instead of focusing on what we did wrong? So it's the biggest thing. So thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Again, it was one of the best courses I've ever taken, and I've taken a few courses for shooting, by the way, but not just for shooting, but also with life in general.
Ah, excellent.
Yep. That's where it's at.
Yep. All right, Regina, you want to get on with giving away some prizes?
Yeah, absolutely. So how about we give out the Beretta gift card first, Casey?
Okay, so our first winner is Laura Seats.
Nice. Congratulations, Laura. So Casey will get in contact with you after the podcast is over to get your information so we can mail out the Beretta gift pack. So now let's give out prize number 2. It's a CUSIP swag pack. So who's our winner for that one?
All right. So our second winner is Daryl Level.
Oh, Darren, congratulations. So same, Casey will get in contact with you and we'll mail out your gift. And our last one for today is Active Bellis gift card.
Okay. And our third winner is Megan Proctor.
Awesome.
Okay, congratulations, Megan. And
so I know people who are watching on YouTube, I am not able to send direct messages through YouTube. So if you could send me an email through, and I'm just popping up my email at the bottom of the screen here, Casey@ladyguns.ca, we can get these prize packages sent out to you. So it's KACIE@ladyguns.ca.
Congratulations, everybody. Congratulations.
Yeah,
awesome.
Congratulations to all our winners. And now that we've given out our prizes, let's move on to our upcoming events. So we are very proud and excited to announce that there'll be a CUSIP International Women's Day Target Challenge. That'll be you can go ahead to our website and download the targets. So it's 3 targets. So you can just go out to your favorite shooting range, grab your favorite firearm, and just go shoot it. Have fun, take pictures, share on your social media. Make sure you use hashtag CUSF IWD2022. And if you want to tag us, we'll be more than happy to give you a shout out on social media. Anything else you guys would like to add about the target? Like, we're very excited about this.
They're beautiful. Casey designed them. They're in honor of International Women's Day, and you guys just got to check them out. They are absolutely adorable. Can you say targets are adorable? They're really cute, and
they are.
So we're going to use them at the upcoming Ladies' Night, and I know that all the ladies on this call are going to go take them to their range, and we're going to post them on the CUSIP Women's Instagram page as well. So we hope to see everybody's posted and what firearm they're using or whatever they want to share. Love to hear, love to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I already have plans set up. We're gonna go out this weekend and go shoot some targets. So yeah, so it's at cusf.ca/programs, and that's where you'll be able to download the target as soon as the podcast is over. So
Right.
go have fun, go shooting. And other than that, if you are a student or a CUSIP member near or in Carleton area, they will be having an all-female event, and it's going to be announced soon. They're just figuring out some details with the range, but it'll be sometime in March. So either the second to last or the last weekend of March, they'll be having an all-female event. So we're very excited that they're hosting this, and we'll be sharing more information as it gets more
Release.
it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do that. So that's for CUSEF. Kelly, I'll send it up to you. Anything from Maple Seed coming up soon?
Yeah. So what you can see if you go to our website, also to our Facebook page as well, that we are currently we're uploading some of our events that are happening across the country. Some of the regions are a little further behind than other regions, but Alberta is going strong because of the fact that you guys have been without restrictions for the last little while. But we're uploading our events. If they're up there, click on the links, register for them. If they're sold out, they'll indicate that they're sold out. But yeah, we've been uploading furiously, and hopefully we can get to you. Just I don't know if I'll announce it anyways. This year we're going to be going to Newfoundland, and look for us there in September. So we're going to fly onto the Rock, and for the first time we're going to be able to have an event in Newfoundland. It's exciting.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So look for those. Go join our Facebook page or go to mapleseedrifleman.com. I'll look at the events sign there as well.
And Deneen, anything coming up from Lady Guns? I know you mentioned there's a Lady Guns event coming up soon.
We have a couple of them, yeah. So this Thursday, March 10th, we'll be continuing to celebrate International Women's Day. At the Shooting Edge at 6 o'clock, we will start our safety briefing, and it'll be ladies' night. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be at the Calgary Shooting Centre. And we are aiming, pardon the pun, to do this every 2 weeks. And so we're going to continue working with the clubs in the area and get more activity so that new shooters or the members that are ladies that want to come out and have somebody to shoot with can come out and join us. So that's coming up. March 18th to 20th up in Edmonton is the Boat and Sportsman Show. I'm going to go harass the folks in the CCFR booth and see if there's any gunny girls to say hi to, and check out some of the great displays they have going on there. And then in the works right now with the Rimfire Precision Group, we've got around Calgary at Buffalo Target Shooters, July 30th and 31st, tentatively, is our ladies rimfire event. And in Kamloops, Casey's going to have a KT at the KTSA at the shooting range there, a rimfire precision event. And I know we're going to try and tag some Maple Seed events on or around that time as well. So that's what we've got going on. Some other things in the books that we will announce on further podcasts. But I know you've got some information on the next upcoming podcast, Regina. So I'll just leave that over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I go over that, I'll just like to once again thank our sponsors. So it's Cabela's Canada Outdoor Fun, Savage Arms, Breda, Vortex, and Hunt Field Company. So for next episode, episode 4 is Running and Gunning with the Ladies, where we will be talking with Amanda Fisher, Laura Sitz, and which are a couple of amazing dynamic shooters that compete in IPSC, EDPA, USPSA, and Still Challenge. So if you like today's episode, please leave us a like and follow us so that you don't miss any of our episodes. If you like our message and would like to learn more about our programs, check out our websites at cusf.ca, ladyguns.ca, and mapleseedrifleman.com. To support us and get some additional perks, check out our membership programs. Thank you for tuning in to the She Shoots Podcast, Episode 3, Getting Your Head in the Game. And we'll see you again on April 12th. Thank you. Have a great International Women's Day and have a good night.